Hey everybody, how's it going? Blaine, aka Thrifty Fishing here, back at you again with another collective video. Today I'm just doing a quick video on some of the basics of the game for new players, some stuff that they might find confusing, and just some basic information that they'll probably find helpful. I'm going to start by talking about the affinity system. So if you've ever played a game like Magic the Gathering where you have mana colors, collective is very similar to that. And that we have affinities. So there's three currently. There's red, which is strength. There's green, which is spirit, and then there's blue, which is mind. Um, Unlike in games like Magic, where if you have red mana, you can only play red cards. In collective, you actually can play other colored cards. So, like, let's say I'm playing a red hero, but I want to play a blue card. That's totally possible. You're allowed to play any color card in any deck, unless it's a very special kind of card that's affinity locked, and there's very few of those. But the thing that costs them differently are ticks, and let me show you what that means. So, for example, let's take just any given card like this red one here. Let's see, it'll be a lot easier if I can show you one that's not a blueprint. Yeah, so this is a red card here, and you can see that it costs 2 mana for a red hero to play. But then up under that, you can see that there is this triangle that comes off the right side here. That's called a tick mark. And those ticks are how many it would cost for a different color to play it. So as you can see, Arm the Recruits here is a 2 mana spell for a red hero. But if I was going to, let's say, add that to my blue deck, because it has 1 tick, then when I go to Arm the Recruits here, oh, let's see, did I miss it? Might have clicked a little too quick. Oh yeah, it's going to be over here in 3. So here it is. Because it's got 1 tick and this is a red card and we're now building a blue deck, now this card costs 3. And however many ticks is always going to be the same. So if we can find, let's see here. Well, for example, this blue card has a ring around it. That means it's affinity locked. That means you can only play that card in a blue deck. So if I go to the reds, my red hero, which is Entomb, and try to make a deck with him, I can't do that because it's affinity locked. So let me try to find a better example here. Trying to find a blue card that I don't have a blueprint for. So there we go. So here we have Mad Scientist. He's 6 mana, 1 tick. So for me, he costs 6. If I was to switch back over to my Entomb deck, he would cost 7 in that deck. Just like this guy right here, Real Fun Guy. He's a 7 mana red card for me, but he has 2 ticks, which means in my red deck he would only cost 5. And so normally the more expensive a card gets, the more ticks that it has, or it just becomes exclusive to that affinity where you can't play it in another deck. So that tick system is really the only new thing that's kind of confusing for players coming from other games, because you can play any card in any color unless they're affinity locked. But like this Nest Mother here, see, I'm playing a blue deck, so she's 7 for me, but at 2 ticks, that means in my red or my green deck, she would be at 9. So that's ticks. Those are pretty simple. Also, I'm going to go ahead and cover all the keywords. So just like in any card game, there are keywords that all do different things. In my next video, I'm actually going to talk about how turns work and stuff, but I might cover a little bit of that here just to kind of go over the keywords. So the first keyword is ambush. Let me pull up the classic ambush card. So Web-O-Wall Spider here is a 2 mana 1/2, or it's actually a 1 mana 1/2 in green. But it has ambush. So in collective, your cards can attack and block, and you actually choose what you block with. And on the first turn something is played, it's not allowed to attack or block. But ambush means that the turn you play it, as it says right here, this unit can block the turn you play it. So Web-O-Wall Spider, if you drop him down and then they attack with something that turn, then you're already ready to block it. So that's pretty nice. The next keyword we're going to look at is Duelist. Let me see here. I'm trying to think of a card off the top of my head that has Duelist. There's the new yo-yo. There it is. Alright, so Duelist. We can go right into Rebound too, since it's on there too. So Duelist means that instead of just choosing to attack, where you just say that this card's going to attack and they can pick what blocks it, Duelist makes your attacking work like it does in Hearthstone, where you pick what you want it to attack. You can basically make it fight something and you pick its blocker. So if your enemy has a, like a 1/1 that you really want dead, you can just, duel it with your yo-yo here, and it will die. Rebound, which is the second keyword this card has, means that basically you get it back one time. So if this yo-yo's to die, let's say it's a 1-1, I duel with another 1-1 and it dies, it'll come back to my hand, but it loses rebound. So rebound is a one-time, basically bounce this back to your hand effect. So yeah, that's those two. I can go ahead and do flying since this one's right here. Flying means that it cannot be blocked unless the enemy has a creature that also has flying. And they're called units, not creatures. That's my bad there. So flying, like I said, is just this can't be blocked unless your opponent has something that also has flying. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Regenerate. Let's look at Kudzu. So Kudzu, it is a 2/4 with Regenerate. So what does Regenerate mean? So if a card takes damage, like let's say this Kudzu here has 4 health. Let's say it got hit with a Fireball. So Fireball does 3 damage. All right. So that would leave it at 1 health. So it would then be a 2/1. Normally, a card would just stay at that health once it had been hit. But a card with a Regenerate, it gets all of its health back at the end of the turn. So if it survives damage, so if it only takes 3 or it takes 2 or it takes 1, at the end of the turn it's going to go back up to that 4. And that works with buffs. So let's say we buff its health up to 10. It's a 2/10 now. And it takes 9 damage. Doesn't matter. It'll still heal all the way back up to 10 at the end of the turn. Let's see. Untargetable. I don't think there are any cards that have Untargetable off the top of my head. Let me see. Can you search by Untargetable? Yeah, I didn't think so. I really don't think there are any yet. We've had some get close, but I don't think any have made it in that get untargetable. Basically, targetable just means you can't use any targeted effect at it. It's right there in the name. So if something says deal 3 damage to the target, you can't target that. It can still get hit with splash effects. Things that does damage to everything will still hit something that's untargetable, but that's the only thing that it's good for, is not getting targeted. All right, let's look at Ward. So Ward lets you... Actually, that doesn't even have Ward. Let's see, Slug. Where's Slug at? There he is. So Ward is a lot like Divine Shield if you played Hearthstone. It basically just stops one... I'm trying to think. One non-attack against a minion. So they can still take damage from an attack, but basically it's like a spell shield of sorts, where any kind of action or ability from a minion that would do damage to it or buff it or do anything to it at all, actually, will be prevented. And it does that one time. So the very first time that it would be targeted by something other than an attack, it will stop that damage. Deadly is another one. If I could spell deadly here. So like this guy, Reanimated Feowin, he has deadly. Basically that means that no matter how much damage, how much health whatever it damages has, it dies anyway. So if it was to hit like something with 10 health, it'd still die. Doesn't matter. If it does damage to anything, it dies. Whether they have Regenerate, it ignores all of that. Let's see. We also have Exemplar. This is going to require a little bit of explaining how the game works. But Exemplar means that any damage that they do, you gain as experience. So every game of Collective you play, you start off at level 1. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in the gameplay video. But you need a certain amount of experience to level up each time. And basically all the damage you do with Exemplar minions give you that experience. So if his attack is 2, then you get 2 experience every time he attacks, so on and so forth. I think the last one is Overrun. There might be one more. Let's see if I can spell here. Overrun is pretty straightforward. I'm trying to see if there's just a flat Overrun minion. I guess we can go with this. So this gets Overrun when it... no, it's always got Overrun, sorry. It just gets +1 when it blocks. So Overrun is a lot like Trample from Magic the Gathering. So if something gets blocked, normally all of its damage is just dealt to whatever's blocking it. But with Overrun minions instead, so let's say this 5 attack minion attacked something with 3 health, then that extra 2 damage is going to be dealt to the enemy hero. So it's basically like excess damage just carries over. Let me see if there's any keywords we missed. Yeah, Unblockable. So Unblockable is exactly what the name says. It cannot be blocked Buy anything, doesn't matter. There are no cards that have this can block Unblockable, which would be kind of a paradox there. But so yeah, Unblockable, they just can't be blocked. Now there are also some hook words, which are kind of like keywords. There's a few of those. One of them is Brilliance, and that goes back to the level up mechanic. That means whatever their Brilliance thing is happens when your hero levels up. So this one is Brilliance. You gain 3 life. So if your hero levels up while this minion is alive, then you get an extra 3 life. This minion here gets +2 attack when you level up. This minion here makes a copy of itself when you level up. So there's lots of cool things you can do there. Let's see. We've got Summon, which is like a fanfare or a battle cry, which is basically when you play it, this does something. So the tag team wrestler here, when you summon him, he creates a 1/2 tag team teammate in your hand. So he adds something to your hand. The jungle dart hunter here, when you summon it, you can set an enemy's attack to 0 for this turn. Very simple effects, basically battle cries, fanfares. And then on the very opposite of that, you have Entomb, which is when it dies, or death rattles. Like this is Entomb, create a 3/2 skeleton. This is Entomb, create a 3/3 wolf. So on and so forth. This is Entomb, deal 1 damage to all units. So if it dies, that happens. It doesn't include removing from the game. It only includes going to the discard pile. Feed's probably the trickiest one. I would say coming from other games, feed to me seems to be the most like a original keyword that does something different. I could just be crazy and forgetting something from like Magic that does this, but basically when you play a feed card, any other unit you play after that card this turn gets some kind of benefit. So like Night Vision Carrot is a great example. You play it, you gain 4 life, but then everything that you feed it, so every unit that you play after it, becomes unblockable. So you play like your really big minion, suddenly he's unblockable. You know, that's really cool. Sushi here is you can give a friendly unit, and then feed all the units you play after that get Exemplar. And there's all kinds of feed effects. Like Frozen Fish gives things health. The Pancakes here creates a bunch of other cards that also feed things. Like +1 health, +2 attack, +2 health, things like that. And I'll talk more about that in the gameplay video as well. And the last one is an active. So actives work a lot like tapping in Magic, if you've ever played that. It's basically something you can do instead of attacking is the easiest way to think about it. So you can say, I don't want to attack or block with this minion. I want to use this active instead. So for example, this Backstreet Thug here, he has an active that lets him destroy a unit with 0 attack. So he can do that as opposed to attacking and blocking this turn. Just like with attacking and blocking, you can't use an active the turn you play a minion. So you have to wait a turn to use any of those actives. Something like Mightbot, it creates another Mightbot in your hand. You get like that value engine going where you use its active, it creates a copy of itself that also has that active, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's all the keywords, and that's how affinities work. I think I've covered basically everything I wanted to in this video. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments or at me on the Discord. I'll be glad to answer anything you might have. And thanks for tuning in. See you guys again next time.